I want to take a second and see who we have joining in the room. It is always so fun to see return faces. Sarah and Emily. Who else am I seeing here? Oh my gosh, it's all moving so fast, I can't keep track. Elena, Emma, so many others. Gorgeous. So while we're letting everyone into the room, I wanted to talk briefly about our program and what to expect over the next hour if you are new to Mindful Poetry Moments and our Mindful Poetry gatherings. So I'm Stacy Sims, and I'm the founder of The Well and the programs of The Well, including Mindful Poetry Moments, which is a collaboration with the wonderful On Being and Poetry Unbound, where we do two things. We bring poetry into the classroom, combined with mindful prompts. And we also do these all ages gatherings. And this is our National Poetry Month time together. So we'll meet every Wednesday for 5 weeks, listen to poems, learn about poems, write our own poems, and then come together to share and publish our own poems. So a couple of other things. We have, thanks to On Being, we have Sky with us, who is going to close caption our transcript. So if you're interested and need the closed captions, you just click on the live transcript button at the bottom, and that will hopefully help you out. And if you know anyone who could use the services and would like to be a part of this group, just let them know we have that. The other thing I wanted to share is that when we get to our sharing, this is an all ages gathering. So we want you to write whatever you feel compelled to write, and to write to us with those poems that we'll share with you how to do. But for sharing, just be aware that we might have some children or students in our groups. So with no further ado, I am super excited about who's going to take us through our time today. So first up, we have Amy Tuttle, who is our first multi-hyphenate luminous human. Amy's going to lead us through the opening meditation, and Amy is a poet and an artist and an educator and a dancer. And I would say shaman. I don't know if that is for sure healer, just a remarkable person who happens to work for one of our co-sponsors, Wordplay here in Cincinnati. And you will see about Wordplay, the Hive, and the Mercantile Library in your follow-up email. And then taking us through the poem today is Hala Liza Gafori, who I met through On Being several years ago. And another multi-hyphenate beauty, Hala is a poet and a translator and a singer and an educator. And I'm super excited. I remember learning about your work when we were together a few years ago, but you can now pre-order Hala's book called Gold, and it is a translation, her translation of Rumi. And Hala, you can tell us, I think you're one of only a few women, or the only woman to translate Rumi?
One of a few, yeah, one of the few, and one of the few Iranian people of Iranian descent who are working from the original text. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I just got the chills. Super exciting. And we'll send you that information too, so you can all pre-order and we can all celebrate together. I think that is it. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy to get us grounded and connected.
Good.
Okay, everyone, welcome. It's wonderful to see your beautiful faces and all of the lovely backgrounds, the diversity of places that we're tuning in from. Let's start by looking around. Just take a look around and connect. Maybe you may even make eye contact with someone who's in another box on our shared screen. In this strange yet beautiful virtual reality that we're enjoying together. Great. And give yourself a second to flip to the other screen. So we've got 2 full pages of humans tuning in from all over the world. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Today, we have the pleasure of reading a gorgeous, gorgeous poem together. And the poem centers around the hands. So we're going to spend some time getting into our bodies, arriving, and giving blessing with our hands and to our hands. So sit in a way that for you is comfortable. Perhaps both of your feet can find the ground. And maybe your eyes soften and your eyelids drop closed. Allow your breath to extend. Breathing in fully. And then just letting that go. And let yourself take a couple of good, long, nourishing breaths in. Let them go. With each breath, we're more fully arriving, allowing ourselves to show up, to occupy this seat in this beautiful group, in this community of poetry. Something that's so delicious to me about poetry is it activates all of our senses. It's an art form that gets into the senses. So let's wake them up a little bit with our eyes closed and our hands relaxed and our feet grounded. First, tuning into the ears. And let yourself imagine a sound that you would love to hear. What would you love to hear? And allow that sound to fill your sense of hearing. Remembering to breathe as we keep on arriving, as we wake up our senses. And next, imagine something you would love to see. What would you love to see? And let that sight enter your eyes. And moving to scent, what's something that you've been craving to smell? Something you would love to smell. Bring it in. And fill your tastes with something you've been missing. What would you love to taste? And now to the hands. Oof, what would you love to touch? And just let yourself imagine. Now bringing the right hand on top of the heart. Breathing in, breathing out. And just feel your beat, your own rhythm, your life source. Bringing the left on top of the right hand. And as we sit here, hands on top of our beautiful hearts, what do we love? What do we love? And can we let that love fill our chest? Filling ourselves up with love. Now, releasing our hands to face upward as they rest on our legs, on our lap, palms up. Breathing in, breathing out. This gesture of receiving, of receiving. What is it that we receive with our hands? And as it comes closer, can we pull it in by closing one hand and then opening it, closing the other hand and opening it, and just receiving while one hand is open and the other hand is closing, open, closing, and open. And then we bring our two hands together and we rub them together and we create heat, warmth, energy. And we rub the palms together and also the backs of the hands, the fingers, the thumbs. And once we have a good amount of heat between our hands, we pull it into a place in our body where we need a little extra love and attention. We seal in this energy, this love, with just a couple more at your own pace, deep breaths. Slowly begin to open your eyes, return back to the group, and just notice how you feel as you're looking around and connecting to those three-dimensional, full and amazing humans on the other side. All right. And I'm so happy and honored to now invite Hala to lead us through this beautiful poem.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Amy, for that very beautiful meditation, very sensual meditation. I enjoyed that. So let's dive right into the poem. And let me actually also say thank you to everybody who's here today. And thanks everybody for your presence. When Amy asked, what do you love? The first thing that came to my mind was I love community that loves poetry. So this is wonderful. Thank you, Stacy and Ro, so much for pulling this all together. So let's dive into the poem. Consider the hands that write this letter. After Marina Wilson. Consider the hands that write this letter. The left palm pressed flat against the paper, as it has done before over my heart, in peace or reverence to the sea or some beautiful thing I saw once, felt once, snow falling like rice flung from the giant's wedding, or the strangest of strange birds. And consider then the right hand and how it is a fist within which a sharpened utensil, similar to the way I've held a spade, matched to the whip, the horse's reins loping, the very fists I've seen from the roads to Limay and Esteli. For years, I have come to sit this way, one hand open, one hand closed, like a farmer who puts down seeds and gathers up the food that comes from that farming. Or yes, it is like the way I've danced with my left hand opened around a shoulder and my right hand closed inside of another hand. And how I pray. I pray for this to be my way. Sweet work alluded to in the body's position to its paper. Left hand, right hand, like an open eye, an eye closed. One hand flat against the trap door, the other hand knocking, knocking. So what I want to do first is do something that Aracelis Germain once did at one of her readings, was she brought in to mind Lucille Clifton, who is a great inspiration to her. And she read a poem that I feel speaks to this poem, that I feel almost prefaces this poem. So I want to read a short part of that poem before we launch into this. And that poem is the very lovely Won't You Celebrate With Me? And I'm going to read just the second part, and you'll notice there are two hands in this poem as well. So she says, from within the poem, I'm not starting at the top, she said, I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see to be except myself? I made it up here on this bridge between starshine and clay, one hand holding tight my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. So I want to call in just that image now, one hand holding tight my other hand. And, you know, as I think she really communicates with us in this poem that she has found an independence, has found a self-sufficiency, and has found a friendship with self. That I had no model, she said, But I made it up as I went along. I put one hand holding tight my other hand as a friend. I feel friendship with self as the beginning of a very mindful creative journey. That out of that, she was able to create her life. Out of that deep connection, she was able to create her life. Seeing the poem, can I see people? I don't know. Okay, I want to see as many people as I can. Thank you so much. So out of that then comes our poem for today, where now the hands have been held, we have created this relationship, and now we are opening these two hands and putting them to work, right? And we are able to enter the space of our vocation, the space of a deep and profound focus and love with the act of writing in this case, or anything, right? Because she says, anything that we choose, because she says, sweet work alluded to in the body's position to its paper. What's your paper? Right? The body has its paper, as if the body has this spouse, right? This vocation, and how is the body positioning itself in relationship to this blank sheet, right? It's fascinating and beautiful. So she starts out, consider the hands that write this letter. And of course, you know, is this a letter, an ode to a friend? Is this a specific letter? Is this an ode to the practice of writing? Right? This poem to me feels like that. And of course, you know, one of my favorite things is to discuss poems, and I never ever want to do it in this state of reducing it only as one interpretation, right? So this is one thought that I do feel in some level that this poem is an ode to writing. So she says, and I think that's pretty obvious, but it can also be functioning on other levels too, of course. So she says, left palm pressed flat against paper, as we have done before over my heart. I love this line because I think immediately that the blank paper is a second heart, that the hand is an ear, right? She is pressing her left hand to feel the pulse inside the blank page, to feel the mystery inside the emptiness, right? Because as Marilyn Nelson said, poetry emerges from silence and leaves us in silence. The silence is the blank page, is the emptiness, the willingness to revere the emptiness, the willingness to revere the mystery, to be patient, to put our hands against and let us feel the pulse. I remember there was a woman who once said to me, there's a woman on my floor who sings. And when I pass her apartment, I stand and listen, and I put my hand on the door. And she put her hand in the door. I mean, she mimed it for me. And I felt like her hand was an ear, you know. And there's a Rooney poem where he says, inside your heart, secrets shed their cover. I press my ear to your chest. So again, that pressing, kind of, it's such a wonderful, it's such a devoted word. I press my ear to that. I press my hand to the page. I am here for this page. I am here for what will unravel. And that, you know, that idea of the secrets shedding their cover as writing also as a practice of revealing and uncovering and unraveling mystery is a really beautiful way too of hearing into the emptiness for the mystery. And then she continues. Well, we have that first metaphor of the snow falling like rice flung from the giant's wedding, or strangest of strange birds. And then she goes into this, consider then the right hand now, and how it is a fist within which a sharpened utensil, similar to the way I've held a spade. I love that she uses the word utensil and not tool, because utensil is saying utility. Like we immediately hear the word utility. And I think she's celebrating the utility of writing. You know, that's a spade. The pencil is like a spade, and the spade is an excavator, right? The spade is digging in. We are digging into our psyches. We are and looking outward, right? One hand open, one hand closed, one eye open, as she says later, one eye closed, one eye looking outward, one eye looking inward, one act of digging, one act of bridging out, right? So there's this constant simultaneous, these sort of like contradictory actions that are feeding the poem and feeding our lives, really. I mean, mustn't we look inward, in order to reach outward in the best way we can, in the most compassionate way we can? Mustn't we feel the compassion inward in order to stretch the compassion outward? So I like the sharpened utensil. We are here to focus. She's saying, we mean business. I'm showing up the page. I'm pressing my hand against this page, and I am holding this sharpened utensil. And she says, for years I have come to sit this way, one hand open, one hand closed, like a farmer who puts down seeds and gathers them up. And in this, I think immediately also another piece, Miguel de Unamuno, who said, a Basque poet, who said, the only thing which lasts is the work. Start there, turn to the work. Throw yourself like a seed as you walk into your own field. From your work, you will be able one day to gather yourself. And I get that sense too. Well, of course, she's a poet. And so she's sitting before the page, and this is her vocation. And she is gathering herself and gathering her life from this devotion and from this willingness to face mystery and emptiness and respond and react. I think also of a poet named Farooq Farrokhzad, an Iranian poet who was writing in the 1950s. And she has a poem with hands, and I just will share a couple lines from it, but she says, I will plant my hands in the ground. So notice there's two sets of hands already, because I think she's feeding off the handmaiden's tale. I'm not 100% sure, but the lost hands, the cut hands. And then she says, I've got these hands. I will plant my hands in the ground. So I've got two sets of hands, one that's been cut that will be the fodder for growth, and one that's doing the planting. She says, I will plant my hands in the ground. They will grow. I know. And swallows will lay their eggs in the hollow of my ink-stained hands. So now we have the third set of hands in the poem, which is the hands of the writer, right? She's the insect hands, the ink-stained hands, the ink-stained hands, and the insect hands. The ink-stained hands. And we have, what do we have? These ink-stained hands are the source of liberation for the next generation, right? I mean, writing also functions that way. It's filled with the eggs, and swallows will, for goodness sake, I mean, God help us. We need that. We need writers. We need writers, and we need writers who are willing to speak of the whole range, and to speak to liberation as best they can in the moment. So I think again, there's this all is alive to me in this poem. Now she comes to dancing. She says, or yes, it is like the way I've danced, with my left hand open around a shoulder, my right hand closed inside of another hand. So she's got this circuit here. It's not a closed circuit, even though one hand is closed, because she's digging, right, with the tool. And then this hand is sort of releasing, touching. This hand is moving inward, this hand is moving outward. But I do think of another poet who loved to dance and to talk about his hands, and that was Rooney, the Whirling Dervish. He was whirling. He had one hand. The Whirling Dervishes have one hand open to the sky and one hand facing the ground. And they whirl around the axis of their left leg. And the idea is that you are a conduit. If you get into the state of utter focus and devotion and silence, Rooney says, only in the silence of the deepest listening can I travel beyond body and join spirit. Of course, we're embodied, and he was very central and loved bodies. So he's not rejecting body, but there's that idea of moving behind really the trap of the ego and the mind that's like, right? So in this state of utter and complete openness and vulnerability, really. He was whirling with one hand open to the sky, one hand open to the ground, actually, and often to the beat of the drum. And actually, that is when he composed a lot of his odes. So the reason that his poetry is so rhythmic is partly because of this drum beating and this dance that was happening. And so he wasn't holding a tool, he wasn't holding a sharpened utensil, but he was using his mouth to spout poetry. So that's just another way of looking at this relationship of hands in the act of writing, as both open and holding tool, and also and excavating, and also, you know, open to both the sky and the earth as a becoming full conduit channel. I pray for this to be my way. Sweet work alluded to in the body's position to its paper. Whatever your paper is. They don't all have to be poets. Whatever your paper is. There's a lot of respect in that. They're just in body's position to paper. It's paper. What's your paper? You know? What do you define as your paper? Think about it. Left hand, right hand, like an eye, open eye and eye closed. Then again, there's that outward eye and the inward eye. And then we come to one hand flat against the trap door, the other hand knocking. And this is where there's a sudden shift for me, as in the trap door has, of course, well, first of all, let's talk about the trap door. Trap door, you know, in the floor was once used to hoist up grain in a mill. Also, trapdoor on a stage, actors would be inside the trapdoor and then come out to have their, you know, private entrance. But also the word trapdoor, door trapping in something, right? And I feel that that's mostly what she's talking about there, that we have a lot of hidden doors within ourselves. And she again is devoted and willing to put her hand on that door and knock, to do the propulsive and active inquiry, right? The active inquiry. What am I needing to hear and trying to say here? And that being a way of unraveling the mystery within ourselves, within our existence. As we talk about mindful poetry moments, that was one of the beautiful things in the description of this. We are interacting with poems to look at the mysteries of existence of ourselves. So that trapdoor is holding in the mystery. And you know, she has a poem called Ceremony for Remembering the Doorless World, which is interesting because this poem ends with the trapdoor, and she's, you know, basically saying we've all got these trapdoors. But there's a ceremony for remembering the doorless world, and in it the arroyo tree says, once there were no doors on earth, not a single one. But in this poem, she's saying, yep, there's doors, and I'm devoted, I'm committed, I'm ready to unlock the mystery. That process of writing is a process of knocking on the door within and listening for the answer. And I think also of Joan Didion, right? This famous line, I write entirely to find out what I'm thinking, what I'm looking at, what I see, what it means, what I want, what I fear. I'm writing entirely to figure it out because it's in that act, it's in that knocking that I grow. So I think that's where I wanted to go and talk and say about this poem. The prompt that I'd like to share, because I think we're ready for that, correct? Right, Stacey? Okay. The prompt I'd like to share is a simple one. I'll share two. A simple one, my hands. Just starting, doing one of these chant poems. My hands, my hands, my hands, What are your hands doing? What are they feeling? What are they saying? What are they speaking? So that's one possibility. The other possibility, I'm going to stick with the hands, you know, is one hand is doing this, the other is doing this. So you can not speak of them as collective, you can speak of them as separate, or you can do both in one poem. So that would be my suggestion for where we go with this writing. And if any of the things that, you know, other poems that come to mind sort of make their way into your poem, that's great too.
Beautiful. I took so many notes, man. So let's go for 10 minutes of writing, everybody. I will chime us in 10.